Welcome to the Wingman Show. My name is Commander Drew Brown, my wingman, my friend, the guy who checks my six, Dr. Paul Thompson. What's up, Brother Paul?
Good morning, Mr. Drew. Today is a very, very good day. It's good to talk to you. This will be another broadcast. Hopefully someone sees something that we've said or hears something we said and sees some of the pictures that we put on the air and gets motivated.
I hope so. We're on YouTube. Anybody who wants to watch us on YouTube, please do it and subscribe. You know, we start off the show with a quote. So I got a good one for you. The dumber you are, the smarter you become. That was by Drew Bundini Brown Jr., a guy I know who was my dad. But he always taught me that every time you're wrong, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing because you learn from it. And as long as you keep learning, you're doing good. So that's the quote for the day. How about this big news? Only for us New Yorkers, you and I, Dr. Paul. How about this guy, Domingo German from the Dominican Republic, threw 99 pitches in 9 innings and pitched a perfect game. That means no hits, no runs, no errors. Incredible. It's only been done 4 times by a New York Yankee.
Yeah, I saw that. Congratulations to him. I think he said kind of a mixed season, but he basically made history.
Oh, it was incredible. And it was at an away game. And Dr. Paul, do you know the entire stands of the other team? I think it was the Oakland Athletics. Anyway, it erupted when he threw that last pitch and threw a perfect game because very few people get to see that.
Yeah, that's unusual. I think I might have, in my younger years, I might have seen one game one time because I think the last time it happened with the Yankees or ever, I think it was 2012, the year 2012.
If you don't have 27 championships, don't tell me about the Boston Red Sox.
Okay, don't go to Boston.
Well, check out our jets bombing. My jet is bombing. That's an F-4 Phantom throwing out a bunch of metal. Those are 500-pound bombs, I believe. I love F-4s, and I always loved them. When I was a kid in Israel, I used to see F-4s fly overhead. I don't know if that's when it got stuck in my mind that being a jet pilot would be the coolest thing in the world. But anyway, how about that F-4 you got? I love that picture, Dr. Paul, because both you and I have seen this picture many a time, and even sometimes at night, which is not a picture because it's all black.
Yeah, it's a good picture. I came upon that accidentally. I said, this is a great photo. I mean, there's so many millions of photos that you can pick out, but the lineup, he's going into what they call the final approach in civilian aviation, Navy, they call that entering the groove. Remember that? That's the groove.
Oh, yeah. That bad boy's in the groove.
Yeah. I mean, the Navy always has terms no one else uses. You know, there's 3 ways of doing things in life. There's a right way, there's a wrong way, and there's the Navy way. So,
that's right. We learned that very early in life. Right. Hey, everybody out there, first of all, thank you so much for watching and listening to our show on Apple Podcasts, watching us on YouTube, and check us out on Instagram. You know, hit us up on Instagram. We have a frequent flow line. So everybody who listens every week, we call them frequent flyers. Well, we have a frequent flow line, meaning you can ask us any question you'd like and we'll answer it. And you can write us. And we have a newsletter, great newsletter at wingmenshow.com. That's wingmenshow.com. I'll put it up on the screen for everybody who's watching us on YouTube. I want to thank everybody. And we have a great wingman for you today. Dr. Paul has somebody who's done some incredible things. And if anybody knows what pho is a really good, delicious soup, isn't it, Dr. Paul?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Well, you know, we always say, I didn't say this, Mark Twain said it, if you don't travel, you haven't turned the first page on the book of life. Dr. Paul and I, because we are Navy jet pilots and traveled around the world on aircraft carriers, we also traveled around the world flying 777s for FedEx. So we were very lucky that we traveled a lot. One of our experiences is that we were both born and raised in Harlem, New York, and what we saw was diversity. There's a big world out there. So if you guys are ready to travel, how about I tell you the top friendliest cities in the world? They were just voted on. And Dr. Paul and I have been to some of these, haven't we, Dr. Paul?
Yeah, we have. Been in some, born in one of them.
Wow. How about that? So we're going to go from the bottom to the top. And our bottom one, and these are the top 15, so that means they're not bottom. There's plenty of countries. But the 15th friendliest city is Berlin, Germany. Now, we flew to Germany all the time, but I've never been to Berlin myself where the wall was. How about you, Dr. Paul? What do you think about Germany? Because I thought the people were very nice and the food was delicious.
Yeah. I'd never been to Berlin. Been to Munich several times, but never left the airport. Most of the time was either Frankfurt and Cologne, and I'd done some charters in a place called Hahn, which was outside of Frankfurt, really. That was kind of like our second home. Yeah, but Germany was real cool. Enjoyed the food, enjoyed the people, did some touring around in the Black Forest. Used to fly out of Ramstein Air Base 2 on charters, which is... again, outside of Frankfurt. There's a lot of military presence in Germany still. Maybe they're closing some of the bases down, but there's quite a bit.
We're going to show you a map of Germany so you know where all these places are in the world. Number 14, and I think you have a picture there. We both went there, and I'm going to show a picture of three black airline pilots who flew to Paris for the weekend on the 777. It's like the American dream. Anyway, Paris, France is number 14. We flew to Paris all the time. I love Paris. To me, it's like New York, but everything's in French.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And sometimes there's a stereotype that the Parisians were unfriendly or whatever. I never found that the case.
Me neither. You know that what it is that they're very American. So this is the only place in the world that's ever happened to me, Dr. Paul. I put a $20 bill on a table. We were getting something to eat at a little outdoor cafe. They looked at me like we were in America, and I put a 20 franc note on the table. The same look. We don't take that kind of money. Number 13, a place Katrina and I are going to visit very soon, and I heard it is great, and it's one of the most economical places in Europe, is Lisbon, Portugal. I can't wait to go to Portugal.
Never been there. I've heard good things about it. In fact, I had a cousin, she's a foreign language translator, and she learned Portuguese, actually.
I learned Portuguese a little bit in Brazil when we used to fly there.
Yeah, I knew a couple words, a few phrases.
Number 12, I think is the friendliest country, but I guess there's more, is Auckland, New Zealand. When we went to New Zealand, these are the nicest people that I've met in a very long time. Everybody was really cool. You know, New Zealand is the place where they had that, I'm going to say it, that mass shooting. But the next week or so, the prime minister said no more guns.
Must have a low population. Never been there. Been to Australia a number of times. They probably have a very low population. You know, that's a good jumping off point if you want to go to Antarctica.
Yeah, or Australia. It's right there.
Australia, right.
Number 11, Amsterdam, where you could have a lot of fun in Amsterdam. And the tulips are beautiful. And in Amsterdam, when we go, it's mainly bicycles. There are bicycles everywhere.
Yeah, bicycle. Yeah, I saw a lot of bicycles there. And in Osaka, Japan, those two places probably had the most bicycles I've ever seen.
Here's a place that I wanted to go all my life. And when the Nimitz did a North Atlantic tour, I went by myself because I guess nobody else wanted to go. I took a train and went to Copenhagen, Denmark. Okay. And I had one of the best weekends of my life, all by myself. And because we're officers, we used to get a couple of days off. Enlisted personnel would have to be back usually on the ship that night. But we used to get like a weekend off, and I went to Copenhagen and had a great time. Have you ever been there, Dr. Paul?
Not Copenhagen. Is it similar to Amsterdam, or is it much different?
Very, very, very. The people are very fair-skinned, a lot of blonde hair. Number 9, Dublin, Ireland. This is a place I haven't been, and I didn't think it would be on the friendliest list. I don't know, maybe Conor McGregor, because he's such a butthead to me. But
don't say that.
Dublin, Ireland is number 9.
Okay, I'm going to have a UFC thing with you and Conor McGregor. We'll I don't know if we can sell that. Yeah,
well, no, I'm too old to fight anymore. I'm a lover and I use my mind. Number 8, San Francisco, United States. Now, I love San Francisco, but we just did a show about San Francisco. how the downtown area is really going away and all the major stores are leaving the downtown area of San Francisco. But it is one beautiful city and a lot to do. Remember, we stayed at a hotel down in Frenchman's Wharf when we flew there with FedEx.
Yeah. It was a Marriott. I enjoyed it a lot. I used to walk around downtown San Francisco a lot for hours and hours and hours. It was just beautiful. In fact, I thought the Bay Area, particularly at night, was probably the prettiest part of the United States.
And it's the second best Chinese food in the country. New York, obviously, Chinatown.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
A lot of people would disagree, though. They would think that San Francisco has the best. I was just telling Taryn yesterday, everybody's here. We're going to have a good celebration, actually. I'm celebrating something, and Dr. Paul will be here later today. But I was talking to Taryn. I told her that there was better Chinese food in San Francisco and New York than there is in China. And you and I both ate in China. And the reason is it's the same cooks, but the produce in America is better than in China. So food actually tastes better. Number 7, Melbourne, Australia. Now, I've been to Sydney, and I don't know, I think Sydney's on the list, but I've never been to Melbourne, but Australia is incredible.
Yeah, never been to Melbourne, Sydney a number of times. Really like Sydney.
The Navy used to go to Perth. Remember that? And
yeah,
we used to hear this story. Every time the ship pulled into Perth, Australia, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 sailors never made it back. That's how much fun they had. Because the women in Australia, just a little hint for any of you single guys who want to travel, the women in Australia are not treated very nicely by their own men. So when Americans come and they're polite and they're nice and they're kind, the women just fall head over heels for them.
Yeah, that was our experience when we pulled in there too, which is interesting. That's Western Australia. Fremantle is the port. Yeah, very, very nice. You get 5 miles outside the town, you're in the bush, as they say. That's the way it was, decades ago. But I enjoyed it a lot.
One of my favorite cities, and not too far from New York, is Montreal, Canada, number 6. And my mom used to take me to Montreal to go visit a friend. And I never forget, that's the first place I had spaghetti a la carbonara. And I was a young man. I never forgot that. Me and my mom had a great time in Montreal. What do you think?
Montreal's cool. French, when I was taking French in school, we'd go up there and I didn't understand a word they were saying. It's not a word. I felt bad about it. All the work I put in is a totally different dialect.
Well, believe it or not, my granddaughter, Angel, is in French immersion class.
Okay.
And so she's learning French and she's only 4 years old. And she counted to me yesterday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I really enjoyed that. Number 5, guess what, Dr. Paul? You and I were born in the 5th friendliest city in the world, New York City, where I truly believe people are really friendly. The problem is there are so many people. If you go up to somebody, the first thing in their mind of a New Yorker is, why'd you pick me? There's 10,000 people on the street. Why are you talking to me? So if you ask me what time it is, it's 10 after 5. That's it.
Yeah, that's excuse me for coughing. A lot of people say, well, New Yorkers are rude. Yeah, sometimes. It's more that they're impatient. The pace of life is quick. It's not quick. You can be 85 years old. It's quick. You're going to be a quicker 85-year-old or a quicker 95-year-old than if you're in Mayberry.
That's right.
I've been cursed out and driving traffic by very elderly people at times over the years. Everything moves quick if I've been gone for a while. Come on. It's like, whoa, okay.
It's a direct opposite of number 4, Manchester, United Kingdom. And the reason I'm saying that is because English people kind of speak roundabout. In other words, if they want to tell you something, it takes them a couple of sentences kind of to infer to you. Me, I speak straightforward. It took me 3 words to tell you what I wanted to say. And that's very New Yorkish. I don't have time. This is what I want. This is what I mean. This is what I need. Manchester, United Kingdom is number 4. And I've been there. Katrina and I visited. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, I've been to the airport. And sometimes British people will get to a point by asking a series of roundabout questions, sort of a verbal jujitsu approach to either getting to a point or eliciting a response.
That's correct. They play jujitsu. I play MMA.
There you go. Okay. You and Connor.
Me and Connor. Number 3, Edinburgh, United Kingdom. I have not been there, but because I've been to England, and I wanted to tell you, when you said you were at the airport, that counts. Because I say I've been to Switzerland. Yes, I never toured the city, but I got on a plane and I walked around the airport, so I think I've been to Sydney. Number 3, Edinburgh, United Kingdom. Number 2, Sydney, Australia. And when we went to New Zealand last year, we visited Australia. The one thing in Australia, in New Zealand, they have the Maori tribe, which is a very integral part of their society. When I went to Sydney, Australia, the first thing I looked for was Aborigines, because they were the native people of Australia. But I hope I can explain this right. There wasn't one in sight. It was almost like I went to New York City thinking I could see the Indians that came there when Christopher Columbus, all those pictures that I was looking for Native Americans in New York City. There were no Aborigines. I hate to say this, but they're all in the outback, and they do not put them into their society.
Yeah, I didn't see a lot of Aboriginal people. I'd seen some in Sydney, not that many. I saw actually more in Perth when I was there years before. Again, that's, it's more remote. Maybe not so much now. But Sydney's a big modern city. Apparently it's pretty diverse. There are a lot of people from a lot of countries that live there that I've met. Not just
the number 1 city in the world with the friendliest people is, drum roll please, Toronto, Canada. Beautiful place, beautiful people. I think that's where Drake is from, Toronto. He was born in Memphis, or his dad's from Memphis. But Toronto, Canada is one of the nicest places I've ever been. And, Canadian people are so nice that people actually make fun that they're so nice. They make fun of them for being nice, which is very weird, but it's true.
I didn't know Drake was born in Memphis.
No, his father is from Memphis.
His father's born in Memphis. Okay, didn't know that. Yeah, Toronto is a beautiful place. It's kind of it's its own New York City in many ways. I have relatives that live there. Very beautiful place, just near New York. It's funny, like Canada, most of the population of Canada lives within 100 miles of the U.S. border, and the ethos across the country, the eastern part of Canada, mirrors the northeast of the U.S. The western part of Canada mirrors the northwest or the western side of the U.S., which is very interesting.
Something that I didn't know, but a lot of slaves came from the South, went all the way up to Canada. There are a lot of Black people in Canada. A lot of basketball players actually in the NBA are from Canada, believe it or not.
Yeah, more and more. They come from either Toronto, or they'll have like a city in Canada. It's a suburb of Toronto, like about 98% of the time when I've heard they're from this, or they're from Toby Coke and all that stuff. That's right. That's between the hotel and the ramp, the FedEx ramp in Toronto.
Hey, Dr. Paul, you want to buy a ticket to go see a good MMA fight like we were talking about? How about Mark Zuckerberg against Elon Musk? These two billionaires have started talking shit on Twitter about fighting each other. And Mark Zuckerberg is supposed to be a very good jiu-jitsu athlete. And Elon Musk said he'll just sit on him or something like that. But can you believe these billionaires are starting to brawl?
Yeah, would I pay for it? I want to say no, but that's a lie. I probably would. It would be a big fight. I know the president of the UFC, Dana White, said not long ago, he said, I was talking to both of them for an hour and a half, and if they're willing to do it, we'll put it on. It would be something to do. I could see it interesting, because there's about a 12-year difference in age. Elon Musk is a little bit bigger. Mark Zuckerberg is a smaller person. And I've seen some videos of them both. You don't know what's real and what's not. I think Zuckerberg won a jiu-jitsu tournament rather recently. But I think it's somewhat similar to those who are doing jiu-jitsu with Vladimir Putin, or judo, because he's a judo black belt. They show him throwing, and how hard are you going to throw Vladimir Putin?
Better not throw him too hard, or you might find a window that likes you.
Exactly. Take a long walk off a short pier. So I think everything's cooperative. But the thing is, both Elon Musk's parents don't want him to do it. Mother and father said, no, shouldn't be doing it.
I bet you that life insurance policy is big.
Yeah, it would end in a draw, but you could hype it up. We could have, maybe Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield as co-referees, and in the corner, you might have Hulk Hogan on one side and Mr. T on the other side. You could play it different ways.
Well, you know what would happen? It'll be a fight like wrestling. Like one guy will kick the doo-doo out of the other guy, but the other guy will cheat and win. So the guy who lost really wins, and the guy who wins really loses. It's the perfect wrestling setup. Talking about billions, let me get a little upset here. Do you realize, Dr. Paul, $200 billion was stolen from the SBA, Small Business Administration, because of this COVID-19 thing? And what blows my mind, and, we don't really get into politics, religion here. We try to really stay away from it. But you're telling me the United States government lost $200 billion, and they don't want to give little food stamps to people who could use it, who don't have a pot to piss in? That is ridiculous. Remember, the Lakers got COVID money, and everybody big time who got caught gave the money right back. That's how you know you're wrong, when they just ship that money right back, no questions asked. I am really upset about this because our priorities are totally screwed up. Do you know what that $200 billion could do to education? Do you have any idea what it could do for the elderly? So I don't know. I just had to get that out on this show.
Or fixing the water supply in, Flint, Michigan, Jackson, Mississippi. Just maybe a small percentage of that take care of the whole problem. There are people getting the PPP loans, the Paycheck Protection Program loans, and for their businesses. Some of them claim to have farms, big farms, and the address was like to an apartment
in Chicago.
They're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars. They caught some of those people, they put some of them in jail, but a lot of them they didn't. But legitimate businesses, they were given a runaround, didn't get a lot of things.
That's true. If you did it the right way, you probably didn't get it.
Probably didn't get it.
Guess what? Everything that comes around goes around. And I'm not kidding. Anybody who stole COVID money, don't worry. That money won't be worth much. All right. It's now time for a Wingman PSA from the 11 Facts in Life. Fact number 10. Love yourself and be your own best friend. Your BFF, best friend forever. Love yourself and be your own best friend. And I say that, Dr. Paul, is that, you and I are only children again, but I can play by myself. And I think enough about myself that if I, don't have anybody to go to the movies with, guess what? I take my favorite person to the movies, myself. I eat all the popcorn and nobody talks to me during the movie. But you have to really start off loving yourself before you have the ability to love anybody else, Dr. Paul.
Right, exactly. Yeah, solitude is a good thing to have every now and then. I appreciate the quiet, maybe more so now getting older. But I like the wild and crazy stuff, 40, 50 years ago was great. But as time goes on, everybody I know is about the same way, I don't need to hear a lot of sirens and craziness. Just hearing birds chirp and hearing nothing every once in a while is good. So between getting bored and being hyperactive, you need to find some kind of a midpoint to keep balance on yourself.
Well, we have that frequent flow line. You can write us, wingmanshow.com. That's wingmanshow.com. Write us a letter, write us a note, and we'll answer it like we're going to do this young man. 16-year-old boy from Rome, Georgia. Getting a little personal here, but he wants to know how much we made flying planes in the Navy, how much we made flying planes commercially, and how much do we make doing this podcast? Well, I'll start off with the podcast. We do this for a labor of love. Right now, we actually spend money because we want marketing and we want all the people in the world to one day maybe hear our voice and find some goodness in the world. There's not only bad, there's good. And Dr. Paul and I, it's a labor of love, but we love doing it. We look for sponsors, but if we don't get them, Dr. Paul and I have done well enough in life where we'll sponsor ourselves. In the Navy, I don't even remember what I made, but it wasn't very much. But it was the first time I really got a check every 2 weeks, no matter what. And I felt very secure in the Navy. Once again, I put 10% when I was there. You should do 20% now. But when I was there, I put 10% away every 2 weeks into savings. And that's where I started using my investment money. At FedEx, I think the best year I ever made, I think I made $340,000. You don't start off like that. But once again, the money is really good in the airlines. And that's why it was hard for the military to keep its pilots, because in the airlines, you made 3-4 times as much. Dr. Paul, how much money do you make?
It's, the most I made is 1 year I made just a little over $500,000, which was like a lot to me. I'm told, it's a lot right this second. I'm told there are people now been retired for a while who've done like double that in the last few years because of COVID and extra stuff. I'm told there are a few people who topped the $1 million mark. That's unusual. Again, I never got into aviation because of the pay at all. I never got into flying because of the pay. I never flew in the Navy because of the pay. That's not a good motivation to go do that, because what you're being asked to do exceeds a dollar value in terms of your life and your effect on the lives of other people. You can't. Go get into flying for the money. That's good. That's not a bad motivation. Excuse me, but that had nothing to do with me in the Navy. And I took the job at FedEx. I didn't know what it paid. I had no idea what it paid. I had no idea what it paid. I found out a little bit maybe after like the first couple of weeks or whatever. I knew what the training pay was, which wasn't a whole lot. And then it jumped up significantly if you made
I think maybe $1,500 a month or something.
It was like $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
Initially. And that was like more than a lot of people were getting for the whole year.
It was definitely a pay cut from being a lieutenant in the Navy.
It was pay cut, but it wasn't like for a whole year at that time. Maybe it is now, but it was like for like a couple of months till you got through training, and then you went to the scale rate, which was unusual because they did things that other airlines didn't do.
Well, I want to make this point because you're looking at bombs being dropped by an F-4, and I want to let you know I am not a warmonger, nor do I want to ever hurt somebody, but I am an attack pilot, and I love blowing shit up, and I love bombing things. And we used to go out to Rangers or go out to Fallon or go out to sea and drop live ordnance, and there is nothing better. Not that I'd ever want to put it on a person, but I am an attack pilot, and I love blowing shit up. Dr. Paul, we have come to a great point in our show, and that's when we talk about our wingmen. Dr. Paul, please enlighten us with this great wing person.
Okay, this wing person is a very distinguished person. It's a little lady. Her name is Win Tu Huang. Win Tu Huang. Win Tu Huang came into this world during the Vietnam War. And she was actually what they call a foundling, an abandoned child that was left basically on a doorstep. And they don't know exactly when she was born, but there was some ID or something on her that put the year 1968. So the assumption was that she was born in 1968, and she was basically an orphan, picked up by a young nun, and delivered to this couple to take care of her. Unfortunately, this is not a happy story. This couple basically were a bunch of sex traffickers. And she was found herself in a world of sex trafficking until some concerned neighbors got her out of that. And she was basically kind of alone on the street and living humbly. And wherever she was living, there was a foundling on her doorstep, a baby. So when she was 19 years old, she took charge of this baby, and with the help of a businessman, got some money to help raise a child, do some other things. And she eventually started her own orphanage. And today she's considered, they call her the Mother Teresa of Vietnam. If you don't know, Mother Teresa was a nun, an Albanian Albanian Indian nun who was known for rescuing primarily children throughout the world, but mostly in Calcutta, India. So she, in fact, I think she might be a saint. But anyway.
No, let me interrupt you for a second, because I'm really pissed about this. Mother Teresa was one of the finest human beings ever, and they did not give her an express path to sainthood. She believed in birth control. So they refused to give her an express path to sainthood. Eventually, they did make her a saint, but I needed to interrupt you to tell you about that.
Okay, didn't know that. Well, in any case, Miss Wintu Wong was considered the Mother Teresa because she opened a number of orphanages. And as of today, she has actually saved like 330 children. And she's got donations from around the world and continues to do this. This is someone who's basically giving back to the community, giving back to the country, to people who are less advantaged. And that's something we should all do in some way, form, or fashion, is to give back and help others, particularly those of us who've been fortunate enough to live good lives.
And Dr. Paul, we have to also remember that every time you give something to somebody, you get it back. And most of the times you get it back in double and triple. But helping people, it should be done just because it feels good, just because you know there's something in there. Dr. Paul, I want to let you know that anything that is meaningful to you and our listeners, anything that is beautiful to you and our listeners, and anything that makes you happy and all of our listeners happy, may you have it today and forever. Dr. Paul, I pray for peace.
I pray for peace. And to those who are listening to us, we appreciate your attention. And those who listen, like, and subscribe to our service, please subscribe. If you use YouTube, a like would help, but subscriptions help the algorithm and helps us get the word out.
Thank you once again, Dr. Paul Thompson, my friend. Thank you for your love, your time, and that's something that we won't ever get back. I want to thank all the listeners, too. Thank you so much for doing the show, Dr. Paul. We're jamming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drew, for inviting me on. Always good to talk to you. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast or any of the podcasts. If you're looking at YouTube, they say smash the like button. Don't smash it. Just press it gently and use as a link to all your friends. You can also look at us on our website, wingmenshow.com, WINGMEN show, SHOW.com, altogether, wingmenshow.com. And we hope to see you in the future. Thanks again, Mr. Drew.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're still floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. May there be peace on earth and goodwill towards all men and women.